You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vought and Project 2025 wanted.
Newsom is he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. Logically Left, I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. And look, I got a lot of really important stories to do today, including the plan to end democracy in this country. I kid you not. Huge report coming out of the Brennan Center for Justice that I'm going to talk about, which details how Trump is undermining democracy to make sure that we no longer have the ability to vote. So, I mean, that is just absolutely disastrous here. We also have the situation going on in Texas, where they're trying to do some very heavily rigged maps. Okay, they're rigging the maps, gerrymandering the districts so that Republicans will not be subject or will not have to worry about losing the House of Representatives, even though they're massively unpopular. Their policies are unpopular. A lot of people are against them. And yet they've got these maps planned out that they're trying to do to, continue to hold on to power. They're afraid of the backlash, and they're even threatening to arrest Democrats. What few Democrats there are, about 51 of them in the state. So, I mean, it's just absolutely disastrous what's going on here, and incredibly scary. Then, well, let's just say we're going to start out with members of Make America Healthy Again getting sick from tainted milk. Shocker. So they mess around. They found out. We've got angry voters that are drowning Representative Mike Flood in a sea of booze, which is always fun. We have Florida sheriffs that are not happy with ICE. What is going on here? I've got the details on that, and it is both sad and hilarious. And so that's what I've got planned for today's show. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important to do so. With that said, why don't we dive in? We're going to start out with a little bit of MAHA. There's a ha-ha going on here against MAHA. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. MAHA, which stands for Make America Healthy Again, has been singing the praises of consuming raw milk. Okay, weird. Now, in Florida, As a result of this, there has been an increase in infections due to this practice, which has sickened 21 people, including 6 children under the age of 10. According to reports, the Florida Department of Health has had to put out a warning about the risks of drinking raw, unpasteurized milk after those who consumed it, of course, got sick with E. coli and Campylobacter bacteria. Several of those people affected have been hospitalized, and 2 have even developed severe complications. Oh boy. Now, sanitation practices in this farm, said the news release, are of particular concern due to the number of cases. Oh, okay. Interesting. So they're blaming the farm, which, to be fair, yes, perhaps their practices may be partly at fault. Anybody who's worked on a dairy farm knows how disgusting that environment can be. Okay? I've worked on one. Okay? I worked on one when I was a kid. All right? And so, look, I cleaned out stalls, and let me tell you what. Shit gets everywhere. Okay? And I mean literal feces. Gets everywhere and in everything, including the milk, which shouldn't be a surprise. Probably a surprise to anybody who hasn't worked in one of those places, but if you have, again, you would know. So, look, common contamination of milk occurs at the udder via direct transmission from blood of the cow into the milk. And there's also, of course, fecal contamination that can happen during milking or through dirty equipment, which, again, if you've worked there, it's hard for that equipment not to get dirty. Okay? So if you are drinking raw milk, congratulations, you may literally be drinking poop.
Big, massive dumps.
Right in your milk. Right in your milk. Congratulations. Great. So now pasteurization, which for some reason these MAHA people are against, is simply the process of heating up the milk to a point where it kills the bacteria that may be present. The bacteria in milk can cause illnesses like tuberculosis, brucellosis or listeriosis, and typhoid fever, none of which sounds at all fun to have. It sounds terrible. And look, according to a PBS News report, between the years of 1998 to 2018, the CDC had reported more than 200 illness outbreaks traced to consumption of raw milk, sickening more than 2,600 people and hospitalizing more than 225. And yet, for some reason, you got these wellness influencers out there like, drink raw milk, it's good for you. Really? Really? Yeah, I'm not buying that one.
Really?
Okay, not buying it at all. Look, in Florida, funny enough, it's apparently illegal to sell raw milk for human consumption. They're not even going to sell it for human consumption. Because even they know. Why? Why would you drink that? That's disgusting. What are you doing? You know that's filled with bacteria and possible literal feces, right? Okay, well, fine. We're not gonna allow you to buy it for human consumption, but we will allow you to buy it for your pets. That's right. If it's labeled as pet food, you can buy it and then be like, aha, sucker, I'm gonna drink the poop milk. Why? Again, if you're drinking raw milk, you are drinking, in Florida, pet food that may be filled with poop and bacteria. Why? Why? Why would you do that? Why? Are you dumb? Are you fucking stupid? Yes. Yes, I think you are. I think you are. My God, people. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with all of you? Look, I mean, do you want bloody diarrhea? This is how you get bloody diarrhea. Do you want vomiting and stomach cramps? This is how you get it. How about hemolytic uremic syndrome, or HUS, which can lead to kidney failure and kill you? Our society, I swear to God, has gotten so much dumber as a result of grifters on the internet who think that they're experts, right? I can tell you, for one, I'm not an expert, but you know what? I'm smart enough to read shit. I'm smart enough to understand reality. I'm smart enough to listen to experts when they have an expert opinion, because God forbid, I can admit that there are people out there that are smarter than I am that actually have studied this stuff for years. And I can actually listen to those people. I know. Oh my God. And not some random wellness grifter on the internet. God, these people. During COVID, these idiots were selling fake cures that made people sicker, shocker, and probably killed a few people. And now they're selling milk that could kill you. Or at least ruin your day, your week, your month, or even your year. That's what they're doing. And look, the Florida Department of Health noted in their statement that, quote, many people do consume raw milk safely, but Floridians should be aware of potential risks associated with the consumption, which may vary depending on the source of milk, the producer's handling of raw milk, and milking procedures that are vital in prevention of contamination. Or you could bypass all of that and just buy pasteurized milk. That, look, you get the same health benefits without having to play Russian roulette with your colon. And I'm not saying that, by the way, that raw milk is 100% completely bad and unsafe. No. No. That said, I am saying pasteurized milk is pretty much guaranteed to be safer. And why am I saying that? It's because, look, there are other countries that can and do legally sell raw milk. In Europe, for example, they do sell it in some European countries, but in order to do so, they have strict safety regulations. You see where I'm going with this one, right? The regulations in Europe are very stringent and address equipment cleanliness, animal health, and proper storage and handling for the milk to help reduce the incidences of disease outbreaks. However, even with all of those rules, they cannot completely eliminate the risk of severe disease from drinking this milk. That's it. And this is important here, so listen up. We live in America, where we have deregulated the shit out of all of our industries, pretty much. We have factory farms where animals live in cramped, squalid, disgusting conditions. Tiny little cages, cramped, filled with feces. Now, in those conditions, many of these animals get sick. They constantly get sick. And when that happens, they are literally pumped with antibiotics. And all of that is completely legal in this country. No problem. No problemo here, okay? Oh, you want to do that? You want to shove all your animals in little tiny cages so that they can barely move? And then when they do inevitably get extremely ill, that's okay. We'll pump them with antibiotics and then, kill them, slaughter them, and send out that probably tainted meat out to the consumer. That's what they do. That's what they do. And in this country, there are a lot of companies that get to regulate themselves. That's right, self-regulation. Knowing all of that, do you really want to put your trust in any of this? I sure as hell don't. Especially when we live in a country that doesn't even have guaranteed health care for every person. Come on. Look, here's the thing. I tend to follow a very simple rule that allows me to stay relatively healthy. And I'm a little on the chunky side, and I admit that. But my rule is, if RFK Jr. is a staunch proponent of doing something, chances are it is not safe, and you probably shouldn't do it. It's a good rule to live by. The bottom line here, though, is that the fundamental risks of drinking raw milk far outweigh any potential health benefits, many of which are only anecdotally supported and not backed up by any real scientific evidence. I do not want to see people get sick from this. I don't. I hate it. Okay? I have a lot of empathy for people. But that said, if you are aware of the information, the real information, and you discard it, ignore it, in favor of listening to your favorite crackpot bullshit wellness influencer, then you know what? It's on you when and if you get sick. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Why can't he speak normally? He always has to name call and degrade. It's childish and pathetic. Shut the fuck up, bitch. You don't like it? Get off my page, asshole. I'm tired of you. I'm tired of you people. You disgust me. Get the fuck out. Oh, I am absolutely criticizing and degrading people, so, you know. I'm having fun doing it, too. Because somebody needs to put dipshits like you in your place. And I guess I have to step up and do it. I'm actually a pretty happy guy for the most part. I'm happy-go-lucky, but goddamn, do people like you just, you don't even make me mad. I'm irritated. I'm irritable. I'm just tired of people being dumb. And that's what y'all are. Dumb. And you don't like it? You want to get mad? Go ahead and get triggered. That's fine with me. Speaking of triggered. Let's talk about Mike Flood. Gotta love it. Nebraska Republican Representative Mike Flood recently held a town hall, and it went very, very poorly. During this town hall, Flood was subjected to jeers and tough questions, which, led to people yelling, of course, and chanting things like Free Palestine, boost, tax the rich, hell yes, and vote him out. Here's some of the highlights from this town hall.
Why did you cut SNAP and healthcare research?
We do not have unlimited money in the United States. And more than anything, I truly believe this bill protects Medicaid for the future.
My question is fiscal. With $450 million FEMA dollars being reallocated to open Alligator Alcatraz and $600 million taxpayer FEMA dollars being used to now open more concentration camps and ICE burning through $8.4 million a day to illegally detain people, how much does it cost for fascism? How much do the taxpayers have to pay for a fascist country?
Next slide, please. No taxes on overtime.
That was fun to watch. I enjoyed that. But here's the thing, right? I know the response to this is going to be, at some point, they're going to be like, paid agitators, George Soros, Democrats are paying the people to show up. No. Now, that said, the Democratic Party did urge people to show up. And so that's probably a result. Nobody got paid, though. That's not how that works. Nobody gets paid in the Democratic Party unless you're like a super rich consultant. Okay? I'm just saying. But this is what opposition from actual human beings sounds like. Now, the other thing is, why did Mike Flood win by 20 points in his election? That is a good question. He ran in a very pro-Trump district that has been gerrymandered all to hell. You also, of course, had voter apathy. You had a special election to replace Jeff Fortenberry, or Jeff Fartenberry, as I like to call him, who resigned his seat in disgrace after he was caught lying to federal officials about taking illegal campaign contributions. So that's it. That's your Republican Party in Nebraska. Okay. So look, this guy, I mean, he's in a district that is very pro-Trump, and yet he keeps running into some very hostile town halls, which is always fun. Now, his answer, by the way, on the issue of ICE that woman had asked, it was pretty bad. He said Americans went to the polls in November, and they had a choice between a Democratic candidate that had an open border, really, no enforcement, fentanyl, drugs, human trafficking, and they had a choice between that and a candidate that said close the border, get illegal immigrants out of this country, stop the fentanyl, stop the human trafficking, stop the drugs, stop the crime, stop the violence. That's what Americans voted for. Stop the crime. Our president's a literal criminal. He's got 34 felonies. So, I mean, come on. Stop the crime. Yeah, stop the violence. Oh, yeah. You pardon the January 6ers, who are all about violence, okay? Stop the human trafficking. You were friends with Jeffrey Epstein, okay? And it looks like you're about to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, who helped sex trafficking. I'm just saying. Not what Americans voted for. All of that was a lie. And by the way, the idea that the Democratic Party is open borders is such bullshit. And let me tell you why. I want open borders. I like open borders. I believe in the human freedom of movement. Yes. I believe that humans should be able to go wherever they want to go. I know, and live there. That's crazy, right? Whoa. But I can tell you, from my perspective, Democrats are very restrictive on the border. They're almost as restrictive as Republicans are. The thing is, Republicans lie about it constantly. The Democrats' border policy is actually based on what Republicans claim to be in favor of. They actually did deport and keep out criminals. Democrats did that. Now, what the Democrats also did, though, was allow for a little bit of humanitarianism, right? Allowing people to claim asylum from countries that are dealing with, for example, the drug war, rampant poverty, corruption, natural disasters. Take Haitians, for example, okay? Haitians were allowed temporary protected status because Haiti was hit by hurricanes and civil strife. Venezuela, because we don't like their government. Our government doesn't like their government. Now, Haitians came to places like Ohio. And you know what they did there? They revitalized their manufacturing. They took jobs that were open, right? Because there were not enough people living in those towns to fill them. I mean, look, the reason that there weren't enough people is because you had people leaving those small towns in the Rust Belt to go to bigger cities where there are more opportunities. And so Haitians came in and were like, yeah, we'll do those jobs. And they were great workers. And yet our dumb idiot president then accused Haitians of eating the cats and the dogs, which wasn't true at all. Wasn't true at all. Look, the Republican Party, their immigration plan is basically white supremacy and exploitation. That's it. Look, they kick out people who are not white, obviously, and make sure that any of those who are actually left will be an easily exploitable labor force who would be too scared for deportation to stick up for themselves. You know what that does for the average American worker? That actually drives wages down. That's right. It drives wages down. So that's the result here. That's the overall goal, is to drive wages down and to make workers desperate, much more desperate. And again, to advance white supremacy.
The Republican Party's racist.
That's what they are. So now, that said, I'm going to go and show you another video here of the town hall. Let's take a look.
It talks about two big changes to the Medicaid program. One of those changes is that if you are able to work and you are able-bodied, you have to work. If you choose not to work, You do not get free health care. You do not get free health care. Okay. So here's a question. Do you think that people who are 28 years old that can work and refuse to work should get free health care? I don't think that a majority of Nebraskans agree with you.
Now, here's the thing. Healthcare, I believe healthcare is a human right. I believe everyone should have it regardless of their employment status. That's it. Oh, but I don't want to pay for other people's health care. You already do. It's called insurance. That's how insurance freaking works. I mean, that's really it. And people who have insurance pay into a pool. And then when somebody gets hurt or injured, whatever, or sick, it gets paid out. That's it. That's how it works. Okay. Now, here's the thing. The only difference between paying for people's healthcare in a universal healthcare system and our current system now is that the current system enriches insurance CEOs who only act as a block for you getting healthcare. That's the whole point, to be a middleman, to go and decide, no, I don't think you should have that procedure. I don't think you should get that medication. Why? Because it costs me too much money. But you're not the one paying the premiums. We're paying premiums into this pot. And I would like to have medication or procedures or whatever. And I would like to have health care, okay, for what I pay. Yes, but if I give you health care, if I pay for that, then that leaves less money for me to skim off the top to buy another yacht. And I would rather have a yacht. That's how that works. Okay, the Republican Party, with the help of corporate Democrats, have put insurance companies, CEOs, between you and your doctor. This is why we pay more than anyone else in the developed world for healthcare and prescription drugs, and yet have a lower life expectancy than those other countries. That's it. That's the reality here. We have a lower health expectancy. We pay more. And that's because insurance companies are pocketing our money and denying us our care. That's it. And now Republicans, by the way, have decided to fix our healthcare system by cutting Medicaid for working people. Yes, for working people. His question isn't even accurate. You'd be okay with somebody who's 28 years old not working or refusing to work getting Medicaid? For one, yes, I actually would be fine with that. But the reality is 64% of all Medicaid recipients already work, while the rest are disabled, they're elderly, or they work as a primary caregiver to a child or a disabled family member. That's it. This is who is affected, okay? This is who is getting their Medicaid cut so that Congress can give tax cuts to rich people. That's all they ever wanted to do, is to give tax cuts to rich people. That's the centerpiece of Republican policy. No wonder, then, that these town halls are going so badly for these Republicans. They voted to pass things that no average person actually wanted. You know what the voters wanted? They wanted the groceries to go down. They wanted inflation to go down. They wanted they wanted border security. But you know what they got instead? Racist and fascist crackdowns on all immigrants. That's what they got. They wanted health care, and they got their Medicaid and Medicare slashed while ensuring that Social Security, the trust fund, will deplete faster. But that's okay. That's exactly what Republicans wanted to do. So they could hand Social Security off to Wall Street, to privatize it. The thing that was so unpopular that George W. Bush couldn't do it, Trump is going to try. So, yeah. Look, this is what they got. Okay? This is what they voted for. Ultimately. And you know what? Republicans like Mike Flood will lie to your face very openly, okay? Very brazenly. And the only way to fix that is to get him and every Republican and every corporate Democrat voted out of office. All right. The National Health Service here in the UK is one of our greatest and proudest modern achievements. Yes, and you know what Republicans will say about that? But you have waiting times, and you pay more in taxes. We pay more than anyone in the UK does for their free healthcare, okay? And we don't get free healthcare. We get co-pays, deductibles, and all that crap. And not only that, if you want a specialist here in the US, you have to wait months and months to even see a specialist. So those are our waiting periods. And yet, in places like the UK and Canada, if you have an emergency, you're in. You don't have to wait. Whereas in this country, if you have an emergency, you have people that are saying, oh man, better not call an ambulance unless I am literally dying because I cannot afford it. We're a third world country, and we just don't know it. I swear. Yes, America is a third world country in a suit, and we just don't know it. We just don't know it. Moving on. Sheriffs in Florida are apparently enraged after discovering that Immigration and Customs Enforcement is poaching their deputies. Oh, awesome. According to multiple sheriffs, a letter was recently sent out to thousands of 287G certified deputies and police officers across the state. 287G, by the way, covers immigration enforcement, so it makes sense that they would be targeting these officers. Now, the message came from ICE's deputy director, stating that the agency is actively recruiting and offering $50,000 bonuses spread over 5 years to those who decide to join. So $10,000 a year. Now, these letters have pissed off these sheriffs greatly. Here's Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey, who said that the recruitment effort is not only inappropriate, but undermines the trust between local law enforcement and their federal partners. Ha! He said, quote, appalling, betrayed. The sheriffs and the chiefs of police in Florida went into this as a partnership, and it ends up that we became a recruiting depot for ICE and Customs. Well, I'm not sure what you expected. If you ally with the Gestapo and you know they're going to stab you in the back. That's kind of what they do. Ivy said, it's the principle of the matter. They used our resources to try and recruit our people. Quite frankly, it's like letting the fox in the henhouse. Ivy believes that ICE had used the email addresses collected through the 287G program to target certified officers for federal positions. There's more. Bradford County Sheriff Gordon Smith echoed Ivy's frustration and is demanding an apology. They owe us an apology. What is their explanation? The Florida sheriffs and our governor, we all deserve an answer respectfully. We don't want to burn bridges, but somebody lit the fire on the other end. Then you also have Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, who said that ICE is targeting officers who received the training that was paid for by his own office. I mean, that's biting the hand that's feeding you. And I am angry. Aw. Sad. Anyway, no, seriously, I do not feel bad for them at all. Remember, a lot of these sheriffs are the same ones that are like, we're going to crack down on anti-ICE protesters. Oh, is that what you're going to do? Yeah, okay. So, look, a lot of these sheriffs, pretty much all of them, supported Donald Trump and what ICE is doing. So, and now you're getting mad at the guy who promised to build a mass deportation force. How the hell did you think he was going to do that? I mean, you got to get those people who are going to enforce this from somewhere, right? I mean, it's pretty damn obvious, okay? What, did you not believe him when he said he was going to do a mass deportation force? I mean, you should have known. You should have known. He said he was going to do it. And now with the help of Republicans in Congress, well, they just handed ICE $170 billion. Y'all should have known. But let's be honest, even if you had known, you'd still vote for Republicans, still vote for Donald Trump, because guess what? They encourage you to be as racist as you want to be. That's it. I mean, to be the worst person imaginable. And that's what you are. You're a terrible person. Now, what's funny here also is that none other than Governor Ron DeSantis was out there expressing frustration. Here's what he said. Sheriffs losing deputies who are in this fight to just wear a different jersey, basically, but still be in the fight. That doesn't necessarily add to what we're doing. It's just moving someone over. So I think there's a frustration from that. Oh, so you're frustrated, huh? What are you going to do about it, Ron? Nothing, because you're Ron DeSantis and you're pathetic and weak. And really, you just want to pass the buck. Here's what he said. I'll fight for what you think is right. This isn't my policy. It's coming down from ICE. So by all means, speak up. Okay. So Ron DeSantis basically sending out the Republican version of a strongly worded letter. As ICE is stealing the deputies and nobody plans to do anything about it. Well, because of course not. There will be no apologies. They will continue to take what they want when they want it. And you know why? Because at the end of the day, you encouraged this. You voted for this. You supported this. You supported the creation of basically an army that is ultimately answerable only to Donald Trump. What the hell did you think was going to happen? Idiot. Yeah. Moving on. And here we go. Let's go to Texas. Texas Republicans are attempting to arrest their political opponents. More than 50 Democratic lawmakers who had left the state to prevent quorum on the massively gerrymandered maps that eliminate 10 democratically held congressional seats are now facing arrest warrants. That's right. Now, the Texas House had voted 85-6 to track down and arrest these wayward lawmakers. House Speaker Dustin Burrows signed civil warrants for each of the legislators, empowering the chamber's sergeant-at-arms and state troopers to arrest and to bring these Democrats back to the Capitol. Make no mistake, this is the state of Texas, a red state, arresting their political enemies. That's right. Now, here's the thing. This is the same thing that Republicans accuse Democrats of doing all the time, especially in relation to Donald Trump, who never spent any time in prison, despite being found guilty of 34 felonies. It's projection. It always is. That said, apparently, the reporting says that this is symbolic. These Democrats, they're not going to face any civil or criminal charges from their arrests. How do we know that? How do we know that? Not only that, but the arrests warrants only apply within state lines. And so here's the thing. This is this is clearly a way to try to intimidate these lawmakers into coming back so they can push their massive gerrymander bill through the government and get it signed at the, basically the request or demands of President Donald Trump. Trump is telling folks to rig the maps so that he does not lose control of Congress. How is that not authoritarianism? I mean, you get the president that's getting involved in here and saying, redraw this map. Yes, the congressional maps are already tilted towards Republicans, but we're going to make it even worse. We're going to get rid of 10 democratically held seats and add 10 more for Republicans. That's the reality. Now, what happens to these members if they decide not to show up? Well, they're fined $500 a day for each day that they miss, and they've also been threatened with reprimands, censures, and even expulsion, although that would require a 2/3 vote among the members. Governor Greg Abbott said Sunday evening that the Democrats did not return to Austin by 3 p.m. on Monday. He would begin the legal process to have their seats declared vacant. He also directed the Texas Rangers to investigate whether any Democratic lawmakers had violated bribery laws. What? Bribery laws? What are you talking about? Alleging that they and anyone who financially assists them in traveling out of state could be held legally culpable. That's insane. Legal experts say that that would be difficult to prove in court, but that doesn't mean that they won't try. Look, fascism uses the fear of consequences to enforce conformity. Okay? Look, at the end of the day, if these Democrats end up coming back, the Republican majority is going to vote to rig the maps even worse than they were before. That's the reality. The only reason Republicans are doing this is because they're afraid of getting voted out by a very angry electorate. Normally, you have new district maps that are drawn up after a census, right? Every 10 years. Trump says, no, I want the new maps now. I want to rig them to my advantage so that we don't ever lose. And that's the goal. And by the way, that's why gerrymandering has always been a problem. And yes, Democrats have also gerrymandered before, even recently in New York. And you know why they did that? In order to eliminate progressives. To have two progressives fight over one district to reduce the amount of members of the squad in Congress. It was wrong then, it's wrong now. It's always been wrong. And now it's even more dangerous than it was before. Because now we have an authoritarian fascist leading the government, openly telling his party, rig the maps and do voter suppression. Look, I know there's a lot of people that have openly questioned if we're even going to have midterm elections. This should point out that yes, we are. Because right now, Republicans are so afraid of the backlash from the voters that they're doing everything that they can to stop people from being able to vote them out. And if they're working this hard and being this extreme, it means that our votes still have some power. I don't know how for how long it will have power, but for now, we need to take the opportunity to use that power, or else we are absolutely going to lose it for sure. Okay. One more here. And this is probably the scariest. According to a new report by the Brennan Center for Justice, Trump administration has a plan to basically end free and fair elections in the United States by 2026, and failing that, 2028. Now, the plan was detailed in a combination of Trump executive orders made on March 25th, which would change the way federal elections are administered, and force voters to show papers if we want to vote, along with the SAVE Act, which could disenfranchise at least 21 million people, most of them women, who tend not to vote for Donald Trump. Here's basically how they plan to do it. The different facets of this, okay? They want to rewrite election rules to burden the voters and take control of election systems, target or threaten election officials and others who keep elections free and fair, get rid of federal officials at the Justice Department who counter disinformation and combat racial discrimination, to put election deniers on state and local election boards, to defund the agencies that Congress established to safeguard the vote and ensure that Federal Elections Commission, which has been hobbled by years-long deadlock, remains toothless, and to finally give a go signal to future violence to try to overturn elections like on January 6th. And of course, he already paved the way by pardoning the insurrectionists from January 6th. And there it is, all those things combined. There goes the end of our democratic system of government. Not only that, but what we're seeing in Texas, of course, with their massively gerrymandered maps that intentionally disenfranchise Democratic voters, I mean, that's dangerous. We are literally seeing the end of democracy unfold right in front of our eyes. Now, in that case, Democrats have actually fought back a little bit. They left the state so that Republicans couldn't advance that map, and you had even help from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who gave those Democrats sanctuary in that state so they could wait it out, so they could end that session and not be able to push their map through. Now, that's not all. States have already gone to court to try to block Donald Trump's changes, his executive orders. In fact, according to the Brennan Center, the president has no right to rewrite the country's election rules or regulate federal elections on his own, which counteracts that March 25th executive order. As a federal court recently put it, the Constitution vests none of these powers in the president. In issuing the order, the president claimed extraordinary unilateral authority to regulate federal elections and usurp the powers of Congress, the states, and the U.S. Elections Administration Commission, an independent bipartisan federal agency. Now, look, this is nothing more than authoritarian power grab straight from Project 2025, the thing that President Trump claimed that he knew nothing about when he was a candidate. What, the Project 2025? No, I don't know anything about that. And you know, what I've seen about it, I don't actually like it. So, you know, we're not going to be doing that. Oops. Turns out, no, that was a plan. It was always a plan. And they actually even admitted after Donald Trump had won. They're like, yeah, you know, we're going to admit that, yes, that was the plan. We are doing Project 2025, and it's about halfway done. Trump lied because he's a liar. That's right. He's a well-known, documented liar. Over 30,000 lies in his first term alone. This man goes above and beyond in bending the truth. And yet, for some reason, his fans are like, oh, yeah, he's a truth teller. He tells it the way it is. No. Look, his fans only like it when Trump says racist and hateful things. That's what they love. They love the fact that Trump allows them to be the worst versions of themselves. I've never had a MAGA person in my comments that was at all interested in any sort of respectful dialogue. People are the meanest, nastiest people you could imagine. And guess what? I'm giving it back in kind. Simple as that. But getting back to the Brennan report. They note that Trump's efforts to entrench himself in power go far beyond what Trump had already attempted to do after he lost the 2020 presidential election. He lost. He's a loser. That's right. No matter what, he's a loser. But here's the thing. The Brennan Center actually forgot to mention the stacking of the state and local election boards. The Brennan Center does a great job. ProPublica, all those nonprofits do fantastic reporting, but they did forget that. Now, the stacking of the state and local election boards actually occurred, an attempt had occurred in Nevada in 2020 and 2024. And after the 4-member evenly split Wayne County, Michigan elections board voted 3-1 to certify Biden's margin there in 2020, Michigan Republicans decided to respond by forcing their Republican commissioner who voted to certify that election out of office. They're like, oh, you voted to certify the election for Biden? No, you're gone. You're gone. Get out. We only like election deniers. They replaced him with someone who would not vote to certify a Democratic president under any circumstance. Understand what that means. We have institutions that can no longer be counted on to be guardrails against authoritarianism because they have been usurped. They have been taken over. There's more. When it comes to the voters, the administration has been trying to impose a show your papers requirement on them, which again would undermine voting and disrupt election administration in multiple respects. Estimates that are that the mandate, the SAVE Act, or both, would end up disenfranchising at least 21 million voters nationwide. Most of them would be women, whose names on their initial voter registrations are different from the name that they now use. And that's one way that they're trying to eliminate the female vote, which again does not exactly go the way, except for white women. Let's be honest, white women still overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. And this happens, voted for their own disenfranchisement. That's it. Now, the administration also wants to force the states to recertify all of their voting machines, all of them, to buy new ones or both, which would cost, of course, tens of billions of dollars. And that does not sound very efficient. Now, does it? I thought we were all about reducing waste, fraud, and inefficiency. What happened? Not only that, but of course, they plan to retaliate against opponents. Okay? People who oppose their attempts at trying to rig the vote. The targets include state and local elections officials, nonpartisan groups like the League of Women Voters, civic groups that mobilize voters, and other individuals and entities that protect elections and the rule of law. That kind of retaliation could target both unions and their get out the vote drives, as well as groups like the Poor People's Campaign, which registers and mobilizes poor and low wealth people, very voters least likely to participate in elections, but also the most likely to oppose the far right. Ironically, this administration is doing all that, trying to curb these groups and get out the vote efforts and unions and their political activity. And yet, the IRS just recently allowed for churches to do the same thing, to be openly political, even to the point of making official endorsements of candidates. And yet, these churches are still allowed to keep their tax-exempt status. I mean, really? Really? The Brennan Center report also showed other likely targets for law enforcement type of retaliation, which would include individual voters, election officials, perceived political adversaries, and journalists. You know who does stuff like this? Fascists. Authoritarians. The Brennan Center reports that there are 3 active task forces leading this retaliation effort. The Justice Department's Weaponization Working Group, ironically, weaponized against Democrats. The New Jersey U.S. Attorney's Office Election Integrity Task Force, and the Washington, D.C. Attorney's Office Special Unit. And you know what? They actually know who they're going for, who the voters are, thanks to the efforts of Doge, who had access to the private and personal registration file for voters. The Brennan Center warns that this administration could abuse voter file access in order to claim fraud and to erode public trust in elections. They could also pressure state officials to target groups of voters and carry out unwarranted voter purges. Any disclosure of sensitive personal information puts individuals and groups at risk of being intimidated or doxxed, and mishandling voter file data could expose U.S. elections to political and foreign interference. As for the election officials, those people are also being intimidated. Rudy Giuliani, for example, already did that, tried to do that to Ruby Freeman and Shane Moss, 2 election workers, whom he went and claimed were, had rigged the election against Donald Trump. Without any evidence, it wasn't true. They sued and they won. And Giuliani has yet to pay them. The report says that criminal investigations and prosecutions would impose a severe personal and financial toll on these election officials or nonprofit employees for simply doing their jobs to help keep elections free and fair. Beyond that, the harms that stem from targeting the officials and civil society groups that make our elections work are manifold, the Brennan Center report says. Even if this administration never charges any officials, the threat alone of criminal investigation or prosecution will likely exacerbate the exodus of election officials. In 2024, 33% of local election officials knew at least one colleague who resigned in part due to fear for their safety, of increased threats, or of intimidation. 21% stated that they were unlikely to continue serving in their role for the 2026 midterms. And in 2025, 59% of officials reported fear of political interference in their ability to do their jobs. 46% were very or somewhat concerned about potential politically motivated investigations of themselves and their families. That right there is extremely frightening. Now, the question is, how do we fight back? The Brennan Center for Justice says that people could take it upon themselves to sue the government for damages. Federal and state law, they say, prohibits anyone, including federal officials, from intimidating voters and those, like election officials, or civic engagement organizations who assist and encourage them to vote. And though voters rarely do so, they are able to sue DOJ officials under anti-intimidation laws in federal court. The Constitution establishes a system of checks and balances to ensure free and fair elections. Power to regulate elections lie in the hands of states and Congress, courts and advocates, and complement the system to uphold the Constitution and federal law. The U.S. election and infrastructure leaves no room for the president to insert himself, and yet that is exactly what he purports to do. Look, there it is. Make no mistake. Our democracy is in danger. It is teetering on the edge, more so than it ever has been, I think, in the history of this country. And I'm going to be honest with you, there is not a lot of time left to save it, but save it we can if we all get involved, if we all get engaged and show up. Before it's too late. Okay. The maps are supposed to be changed every 10 years after the census. Yes, and they're not doing that. In Texas, they're doing it. They're doing it now because Trump said, yep. And of course, now it's funny because MAGA is going to be complaining that California is going to do the same now in response. You didn't want California to do it, then maybe Texas shouldn't. Maybe we should have, third-party groups that are non-political draw up those maps fairly so that, we can actually have fair elections and real representation. But of course, that's going to make more Republicans lose, possibly. And so, of course, they're not going to be in favor of that. Women voting for a misogynist. Wow. Happens a lot, unfortunately. They're pretending to care about bribery. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. They don't care at all. My Governor Pritzker is putting up quite a few up in a hotel at its cost. That is great. Look, Pritzker doing a good job, actually. And it's funny because, as a lefty, I look at, somebody like on paper, like Pritzker, who's a billionaire, and think, ooh, I don't like that. But you know what? Pritzker kind of based, actually. Pretty good governor from what I've seen, and actually willing to fight against MAGA. And you know what? I think part of the reason that he's able to do so is because he does have that money. He does have that safety from being wealthy, so he doesn't have to cower down, to the to the donors, to the owner donors, as much as other Democrats have. So he can actually feel empowered to fight back. So, I mean, you look at FDR. FDR was also super rich for the time, and that allowed him to be more progressive, ironically, and to be stronger because he's not having to worry about, well, I'm going to lose my wealth or I'm going to lose my seat because, I don't have money to run for office. It's kind of ironic that way. It's kind of ironic. And so, but hey, you know what? I'll take it. Governor Pritzker. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. That's all I got, by the way. Texas Republicans doing that just show how weak and vulnerable they are. Their message to the voters of Texas is we don't care about the voters. We just want the power to control them. Yeah, and the power to choose their own voters that are always going to be in favor of them and their authoritarianism. And so, unfortunately, the Republican Party and Republican voters, a lot of them are authoritarians. They never believed in democracy. They don't care about democracy. And in fact, they think democracy is bad. I mean, you look up the Dark Enlightenment stuff, pushed by Peter Thiel, was one of those big ones, big names there. And basically he said, and I'll, paraphrase it, democracy, it's incompatible. Okay, it's incompatible with what we want to do. Incompatible. And so we're just going to get rid of democracy. And that's it. I think it was democracy and capitalism are incompatible. And so, yeah, we're just going to get rid of democracy and we're going to install techno-feudalists. We're going to go and we're going to appoint basically a CEO of the country. A CEO. Curtis Yarvin. Yes, thank you. That was the other guy. I for some reason I forgot his name. Names can be hard for me to remember sometimes. But yes, Yarvin is another Dark Enlightenment guy. J.D. Vance also related to that. Studied the works of Yarvin, backed by Peter Thiel. And so you've got all of these Dark Enlightenment people that say, we just don't believe in democracy anymore. And we're pretty open about it. We want a king. We want an emperor. We want a CEO to run this country. And I mean, when you read into the Dark Enlightenment stuff, it is really scary shit. It's really scary. Because it's like, oh, well, we're going to basically set up different districts run by corporations. And if you don't like where you're living, if you don't like living in the Amazon district, okay, then just, go to the Dr. Pepper district or the Coca-Cola district or whatever. I mean, it's really, really scary and really messed up and obviously anti-democratic. And it's how freedom dies, man. And I fear that we are seeing that this day. Okay. Anyway, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Like and share the show. Follow us, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on YouTube, support the channel, support the show. Patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. I don't have any big donors. I don't have any George Soros support. I don't have any of that. I have you. I have the viewers. And I need as many viewers as we can to continue supporting the show to make sure that I can stay on the air. Very important. To continue to try to give you information as well as commentary and to encourage people to fight back. So please sign up, become a supporter, become a patron, or become a channel member, all that stuff. And I appreciate it. All right. With that said, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. I'm going to be on this space tomorrow doing the show, 2 p.m. Eastern, over on thisspace.tv. So hopefully we'll see you over there. Same time, same place.